Hey, what's up, fellow quarantine people? Matt Bellman. I'm Ryan Kostrowski. We are so bored, like the rest of you guys, and with no DFS and no sports in general. We're going to build our all-time baseball lineup. I figure we're going to get detailed too. I mean, we'll do batting order, position, but it's only for our lifetime. So, like Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Mickey Mantle, those guys won't be included. I was born in 1980, 84, 85, 86. What are you?
I was born in 84.
84. Okay, so just kind of think like the 80s and later.
You were born in 80?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll vary, and we haven't talked this through at all. We're going to talk it through on the fly and get as detailed as we can. And I'd love to hear you guys' opinions. If there's something you want to argue with, have at it, Haas, man. I'm open for anything.
Yeah, I just want to ask you one more thing about like the quarantine because like I'm definitely feeling this. Like I'm not a person that can just like watch TV, like keep watching TV because I can watch sports and like be doing other stuff, and I am like getting bored of TV. Is
Yeah.
that you?
Oh God, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Just wanted to make sure I'm not like alone there.
No, you're not alone. If it wasn't for the fact that I started playing online poker again, I think I would have absolutely lost my mind by this point. And I know, again, clearly you're not alone on this one. This is everybody right now.
The worst is just the unknown. Like if we knew it was going to be a certain amount of time, it'd be so much easier to deal with it. Then I feel like you could have a plan of what you wanted to do during that time. The unknown is the worst part about it, no doubt.
For sure. My mom actually made a good point the other day when I was talking to her. She said it's like when you're pregnant. Like this sucks, and especially the last couple months you're uncomfortable. Not that most of us can obviously relate to that, but there's a timeline. You know when it's over. There's an end in sight. Like this, without any idea how long it might be, and knowing that it's not impossible to think this could literally last 9 months. Just a totally different scenario.
100%. Back to the baseball. I'm interested to see like how much we differ. I don't think we're going to differ that much, although this is very opinion based. So I'm excited, man. Where did you want to start?
So I figure let's knock out some of the ones I don't think we're going to have any arguments with. So I got us down for 1 through 9. I figure we'll roll with the DH. You know what I mean? To go along with it. And then we got our pitching staff, 5 starting pitchers, 3 relievers, and a closer. Like I think it's really easy just to go to like closer and put in Mariano Rivera, right?
I agree. Now, are we doing this like batting order through or position wise? Like,
Batting order and position. So
no, I'm saying like, do you want
I think like
ideal? Like, are you asking for like the best leadoff hitter of all time, or like whoever is in our lineup? You know what I mean? Like
whoever's in your lineup will end up being the leadoff hitter. So,
okay.
for example, like Ricky Henderson's probably the best leadoff hitter, but honestly, I think we're going to do better than him in the outfield, so we won't put him in there.
I agree. I was thinking about Ichiro and Kenny Lofton, but you're right about Henderson, and you're right about that we can find better outfielders. That was exactly my question.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson, I think, is the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, but I don't think he's one of the best 3 outfielders. I'd rather have Ken Griffey Jr., Barry Bonds, etc.
I was just going to say, you talked about wanting to just plug in easy ones. You can just plug in Griffey Jr. in center field. Agreed?
Okay. I agree with him in center field. And because I don't think we're going to take steroids into account, I agree Barry Bonds has got to be like right there, right?
Yeah, he's right there as well. Those 2 you can just lock in the outfield.
Okay, so let's debate where do we want them hitting. For me, I think you can, and again, it would depend on his age, right? Because when Barry Bonds was a young man, he was stealing bases with, up there with the elite base stealers in the league at that time. However, his huge walk rate wasn't until later in his career, and he wasn't running the bases as much. But I do think there's an argument for Bonds as your leadoff hitter. What would you think about that? Knowing that your lineup is so loaded.
I think there's an argument for it, obviously, because like you said, the lineup is so loaded. But even in a loaded lineup like this, he's my 3 hitter. He's the best,
and I'm good with that.
I think he's the best hitter. He was a Hall of Famer before steroids. He was, one of the best players in baseball, like right on par with Griffey. And then, after steroids, whatever you want to call it, he became, the best hitter ever. He's the best hitter I've ever seen. So I think he's your 3 hitter.
Okay. I won't argue that position at all. And the other thing I think we have to take into account is ideally, if you have right-handers and left-handers, you want to go righty-lefty, right?
Of course.
If you have the ability to. So who's your third outfielder then? Because for me, Bonds, Griffey, and at this point, I'm already fine putting Mike Trout as your third outfielder.
Okay.
Any arguments or counter argument against that?
No, I wasn't even thinking about Trout because I was more thinking about like again, we haven't talked about this before. I was thinking about players like in the past. So I honestly like wasn't even thinking about Trout. You
Because
know,
I thought for
other
me, outfield was pretty easily Bonds, Trout, Griffey.
I agree with that.
Okay.
There's a lot of guys that are going to get. I think we'll have to do like a DH. So man, there's a lot like the outfielder that I was thinking of, and obviously I agree Trout is ahead of him. But the guy I was thinking of was Manny Ramirez.
Yeah, Manny Ramirez is great. You brought up Ichiro. Ichiro is great. Gold glove, like 8,000 times and everything like that. But if we get to DH and we want to talk about Manny Ramirez, I think we can. But
You're right, though. Trout is better than him. Agreed.
Okay.
So I'm with you. And Manny Ramirez is like on the Ichiro, right? Next level. Who would you put also in that group?
Manny Ramirez, Ichiro. There's probably some really obvious answers I'm not even thinking of right now. That's the other thing I want to do. Tony Gwynn was really good. The problem with Tony Gwynn, like he was like the best average hitter, him and Wade Boggs that I can remember. But since I'm choosing perfection, I want some slugging and some base stealing.
Vlad Guerrero, like though they aren't as good as Trout and Bonds and Griffey, but they're on the right next level.
Definitely. So let's since we got our outfield figured out and we want to talk about batting order, how about catcher?
So catcher for me, it's got to be Piazza or Pudge Rodriguez.
Pudge, because I got so much offense, I want defense.
I get
those
that.
two aren't even on the same stratosphere when it comes to playing defense, correct?
For sure.
Okay, I do want to look that up though, just because we're here, we're talking, we got time to kill, and the point of this was to make this a little bit more fun. What's the discrepancy on Mike Piazza offensively versus Pudge Rodriguez? Now, I think Pudge Rodriguez was another guy we're pretty sure was maybe
a lot longer.
Yeah, he played a long time, but I think we're pretty confident there was some steroids in his past, right?
I would be shocked if there weren't.
Okay, so for his career, Mike Piazza hit 427 home runs, batted 308, slugging percentage of 545. The thing that we talked about with Piazza, and this is a guy who didn't play catcher every single time, a little bit later in his career, like a lot of guys, but I never won a gold glove, right? You know what I mean? Like he just wasn't a great defensive catcher. Whereas if you look at Pudge Rodriguez, or I suppose we got to look at Ivan, 20 years in the pros. And the offensive numbers, 296. It's a pretty solid career batting average, 311 home runs. But I mean, it was the routine winning of the gold gloves. And as a catcher, I want the defense over the offense.
So for me, it's close. It sounds like for you, it's like you don't even think Piazza belongs in the question there.
He does because he was a great hitter.
Like he's might be the best offensive hitting catcher ever.
Yes, but I do think the defensive discrepancy here at the most important defensive position was big.
I get that.
Okay. The other guy that people might make an argument for would be Yadier Molina, but I do think he's just slightly a little overhyped.
Not over these two guys.
No, okay, good. I'm okay, good. Then we see that eye to eye.
No, he's a different. I mean, these guys were like you talked about. Pudge was maybe the best defensive catcher. I mean, and he was also a great hitter. Piazza was just a prolific power hitter as a catcher. You're right. I still take Pudge over Piazza, but both those guys are in a class of their own.
All right, and we're going to ultimately and we can mess around with this batting order. I just want to get the ones that we have down in stone. And again, Mike Trout's probably not the guy you want in right field, but I'll take the offense, and I know that a left fielder can definitely move to right field.
Yeah, he's fine anywhere.
All right, so we got our outfielders, we got our catcher, which leaves us with the second baseman. Second base, I guess let's just start there. Initially, what's your go-to right away? What's your first answer that comes to your mind? I got one, and I think we'll probably end up agreeing.
The first one that comes to my mind, Robinson Cano.
Ooh, we do not see that.
Actually, it's hard. Now that I'm thinking about it a little more, a couple guys come to mind. So let me just list them off, and we'll see where yours are. Roberto Alomar.
Yep, that's where I was.
Okay, yeah. Craig Biggio is right there. And then Jeff Kent is also, like, right there.
Ryan Sandberg?
Sure. He's a little bit
before your time.
Exactly. Like, that's where the 4 years might matter. But trust me, I remember Ryan Sandberg. ultimately it is Alomar, but all those other guys are real close.
Yeah, the other thing about like Biggio, he only played second base for part of his career, right? I mean, this
Sure.
guy moved all over the place. A very underrated overall player.
Yeah. And then what do you think about Cano there?
I like Cano, but to me, Robbie Alomar was just.
I mean,
Forget
you don't
how
have
many
to twist
bases
my
he
arm
stole
on
too.
that. When he
Yeah,
was
I know as the Indians guy.
dude, when he was with the Indians, like that was some of the best hitting. Like he was so good on the Indians. I'm sure you remember that. Like he was so good on the Indians.
I mean, this is a guy with over 200 career home runs, almost 500 stolen bases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gold gloves in 11 years. Because when I want my middle infield and I've already loaded an offense, give me the best defensive second baseman of my life.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're cool with Alomar. I'm so there.
So I'm going to put Alomar, even as great as he is, this
God,
offense is going to be loaded. So I'm going to have him at the bottom. And then
talking.
we'll make. What's that?
Talking about this just like it gets me so excited. I'm so salty. There's no baseball coming up.
Okay. All right. So we got outfield.
I have a question for you.
Catcher. Go ahead.
So a guy that is definitely going to be on here, at least for me, but I'm wondering what position you would put him at is A-Rod.
Honestly, that's where we get into an interesting question. And this is where if we get enough viewers on this video, somebody will argue with me. Like, I know a lot of people want to put Derek Jeter at shortstop.
And go ahead.
I personally, I want to put Alex Rodriguez at shortstop.
Okay, I thought you were going to say something like you don't think A-Rod should be on this. And like, I think A-Rod should definitely be on this. I see why people want Jeter on this. I'm okay not having him on it. I know.
Okay, good.
I like, listen, I get the points for people why, he's got the rings. He's going to go down as one of the best ever. But I don't think he's like a must in this type of lineup. I don't. Because ultimately, like we just talked about with A-Rod, I'd rather have A-Rod over Jeter. And then there's plenty of other third basemen that are like Chipper Jones. The list could go on.
So here's my thing, too, with like, I think Derek Jeter gets way too much credit for all those World Series in the very couple of years of his career. And let's not forget, for the last 15 years of his career, they won one World Series in New York, and A-Rod carried him to that World Series.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy that you could easily put at shortstop is Cal Ripken.
I agreed. He was really, really good. So that's where I feel like you could go Cal and A-Rod on the left side of the infield, and they both played third base and shortstop in their career. And the other guy that we need to consider what we want to do with them, and I feel like we've almost slept on him right now, is what do you want to do with Miguel Cabrera?
Yeah, well, I kind of put Miguel Cabrera like in the Chipper Jones class. Like, they could make it for me, but I don't think they're musts.
I personally, I feel like you might be misremembering how good Miguel Cabrera was.
No, I'm not misremembering. It's just like, maybe he, he was, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm fine.
This is a guy with, and at his prime right here was amazing, but you can't put him at first because that's where Albert Pujols goes.
Exactly.
I think people, if you're younger right now, like let's say you're 23 years old and you don't remember how good Albert Pujols was, Albert Pujols, other than Barry Bonds, might be the best hitter of my lifetime.
He's right
Prime Albert Pujols.
He's definitely right up there. It's hard to think about Cabrera and Pujols like in that sense anymore.
Right, because that's for me it's really difficult, especially for some of the younger viewers who all they remember is like Cabrera has been a shell of himself for like 4 years now. And because he inked that major deal, he's still playing. But like prime Cabrera and prime Pujols are arguably the second and third best hitters of my lifetime.
Yeah, agreed. And freaking Pujols talking about becoming a shell of yourself. I mean, he has been awful for the past, not awful, but far from what he used to be for the past, since he signed with the Angels.
For sure, but would you agree, like prime Pujols with the Cardinals? I mean, I'm fine sandwiching him right in here and clean up between Bonds and Griffey so we can go lefty, righty, lefty.
I am too. Here's how I'll say how far he's fallen, though. We talked about the Angels with Rendon. We talked about how good their lineup could be. This is only a couple weeks ago now. Trout, Rendon, Ohtani, if Justin Upton's healthy. neither one of us even mentioned Pujols, and that's for good reason.
No, he fell off a cliff. Too many injuries.
Yes.
If you ever heard this, again, I have absolutely zero idea if there's any validity to this, but there's a lot of people who think he's actually older than what his age is because of, coming from a different country and things like that.
There's that with I haven't specifically heard that about him, but I haven't not heard that either.
Oh, okay. I don't want to be like, conspiracy theorist saying Albert Pujols is actually 50 years old. I have no clue if there's any validity to it at all. I've heard that. It wouldn't be crazy. I've heard that, like you said, with a few other foreign-born players before, that they lie on their birth certificate in order to, get drafted at a different spot. I've heard the rumblings. I doubt it though still, right?
I mean, I have no idea. To be quite, I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's the only thing we can both stay with right there. All right, so we got.
Exactly. I'm just not going to comment further.
So we should roll with Trout or A-Rod then at third base or shortstop.
Either one. I think I like the Cabrera call. Cabrera and Pujols started in there. So yeah, A-Rod at short.
So here's the thing. We still had a DH, though, and I'm kind of thinking I would want Miguel Cabrera playing DH because he's been a terrible defender for his entire career. The only thing that does is kicks out David Ortiz.
And I feel like Ortiz has to be in there just because he is the DH. I think Manny is, at the end of the day, I think Manny, if I needed a hit, I'd rather have Manny up than Ortiz. So I pulled Manny in a little.
Ortiz is so clutch, though.
I know, just personally. But I feel like you got to give it to Ortiz because he is the DH.
Okay, so you want because that's a skill. That's a skill. I'm not being in the field and then going back out there. Although Miguel Cabrera is playing a lot of DH lately. Not saying that he's doing it as well as he was when he was hitting. All right, I feel like let's look up Miguel Cabrera and David Ortiz's stats, and let's just let the numbers not lie to us. Because
I'm sure
good.
Cabrera has better stats.
Probably. I think people might misremember how good Ortiz was for a while.
It's 541
career home runs.
Yeah, we literally just said that at the same time.
All right. So, Cabrera's got the multiple MVPs.
477 homers. He'll get to 500.
Probably, but I mean, this guy's been a shell of himself for 3 straight years now. I mean, just pathetic.
He'll probably get there, but it's not going to be easy. Especially with this going on right now, it does not help his cause.
So we got Cabrera, career batting average 315. Ortiz was 86, so there's a 30-point difference. We talk about an OPS for David Ortiz and 935 for Miggy, so that's actually really close. And I love the statistic of OPS.
I do
on
too.
Base percentage.
Cabrera hitting over 315 is, impressive for Cabrera in his career.
No doubt about it. But all the other numbers, OBP, slugging, and OPS, are all very, very slimmer. Ortiz has him on slugging. It's a close call. I mean, to me, I'm remembering how great Miguel Cabrera was, but he really fell off, whereas Ortiz hit 38 home runs this last year.
Okay, but he also started off way worse than Miggy. Miggy started off he was one of the best prospects ever, was awesome in that World Series. And Ortiz was not good for the Twins.
No, he wasn't. I think I told you this once. You hadn't never heard it. So I was living in Minneapolis when he played for the Twins, and I'm always in my mind, I'm like, this dude's huge. Why is he not more of a power hitter? You can see his last 3 years, 10, 18, and 20 home runs. Nothing impressive. When he goes to Boston, look at that escalation, 31, 41, 47, 54. And I saw an interview with him. He's like, when I was with Minnesota, they were always trying to tell me to slap singles to left field. He's like, no, I'm a big guy. I mean, he's a really big guy. What is he? 6'3", 230 pounds. And he's like, no, I'm a power hitter. I'm sorry. Is he not bigger than 6'3", 230?
There's no way he's 6'3", 230.
I'll believe the 6'3". There's no way he's only 230. I mean, I'm 198, and I'm 5'10 with very little fat.
If you asked me how much Ortiz is, I'd say 6'5", 280.
Yeah, this can't be right. There's no way.
No, I'm about to look this up elsewhere.
All right, you look it up and you tell me what you find because I'm calling BS on that one.
Yes, so am I. Yeah, I mean they all have the Wikipedia for it, so that's the thing. I'm gonna have to look in deeper.
Okay. So we're gonna put DH. We're arguing between. I mean, we could do Miggy at third and Ortiz at DH. The problem is when we're choosing these optimal lineups, I don't want to put a terrible defensive guy over at third base.
Yeah, same. So I just got to read this because this is an article from Bleacher Report from 2009.
Okay.
So it says David Ortiz is a big man. He stands 6'4", 230. So like they must have tabbed those numbers, but that was when he was with Minnesota. He got bigger.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. All right. We'll take it for what it says. I've obviously never even met the guy or weighed him or anything like that, so I don't really know.
You've never weighed him?
No. So let's go back. What would be the other nominations at third base? You mentioned Cal Ripken.
Chipper Jones.
Chipper Jones was really good. I love Cal Ripken, but I don't think he's as good as these guys. I mean, if it wasn't for the consecutive game streak, like he was really good, but maybe not on the same level as some of these other guys. Batted .276 for his career, slugging percentage of only .447.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. He's got a lot of that Derek Jeter.
Yeah, I mean, his OPS for his career is like almost 200 points less than Miguel Cabrera, 150 points.
Now, he also was like, a better fielder and
definitely,
kept himself in shape and did a lot of those other things. So
he's got 2 career Gold Gloves though, so it's not like he was racking up like Ozzie Smith type of numbers over there.
True.
And again, if we were only looking at defense, we could talk about the Wizard because Ozzie Smith was great, but Mike Schmidt's also a little bit before both of our times. What's that?
Say we could talk about Omar Vizquel too.
And for anybody who's a big Phillies fan wants to bring up Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt was great, but also I can remember watching Mike Schmidt take at bats towards the latter part of his career, but he's a little bit out of our wheelhouse.
Definitely out of my range.
Yeah, because you probably can't even remember it, and you watch a ton of baseball watching Mike Schmidt, taking at bat.
I cannot, and okay. I definitely know who he is. I'm very familiar, but I cannot remember. You're right. Like I can remember like watching Joe Carter hit the walk-off.
Okay.
That's like one of my first, vivid memories ever. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's, God, what a memory.
All right, let's go back and look up Chipper Jones numbers because obviously Chipper was really good. Also another guy with a very long career.
Yes.
1 MVP, no Gold Gloves, so it's not like he was the greatest defender of all time. Solid OPS in 930, 468 career home runs, 303 average. Chipper was pretty good, so I'd put Chipper above Cal. Take away the Iron Man streak, but just off of pure numbers and what he provided.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely right in that conversation, if nothing else.
Are we missing anybody else that could possibly be over there? And maybe you do slide Jeter into shortstop.
For sure. I'm trying to think about anyone like right now.
Nolan Arenado.
He's as good as those guys, but he has to do it for longer, and he hasn't won anything, so can't do it. But he is, in my opinion, as good as those guys.
And those Coors Field numbers are hard not to take into account, right?
No doubt about that.
I mean, Nolan's numbers, though, are incredible. And I'm sorry, he hits away from Coors, too. It's in the top 8 for MVP. And we can't forget about that defense, though.
Problem is, if he went today, he's not in that conversation.
Because be honest with yourself, who's better, Chipper or Nolan? What's that?
I said if he retired today, he's not in that conversation.
Okay, but if I had to ask you, if you're drafting a team right now and you get anybody on their prime, would you take Nolan or Chipper?
Nolan.
Okay, would you take Nolan or Derek Jeter?
So hard. I'd take Nolan because I feel like that's offensive, but I would take Nolan.
Right, and I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, no, Jeter did this, Jeter did that," but it's not the Rockies are not a great team because of Nolan Arenado. That's not his fault. I mean, baseball's the ultimate team game.
I mean, he's got a lot of Mike Trout there, and also the Rockies have been good. They just had a shitty year. They were projected to be good. It's not like they've been awful. The
This
Dodgers
guy's played 155 games every year, too, in the last 5.
And you can make the argument he's the best defensive player in baseball.
I don't think people would agree with us. I'm actually good moving Nolan Arenado into this lineup, but that could just be me.
Do you think that you could legit make the case that he's the best defensive player in baseball?
Per his position, like I think there's, other shortstops that can, pick it with him. But that's why they play shortstop, yes. He's as good at playing defense at his position as anybody is at their position.
Agreed.
So, okay. Are you good? I mean, I think we have to take into account, I know his career's shorter, but we did it with Trout, as you just mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. We did do it with Trout. I'm good with it. Who are some other first basemen you would have behind Pujols? Like, I've got a couple on the top of my head.
All right, who do you got?
Just that Pujols is above them, but the two guys that come like after that are Frank Thomas and Jim Thome.
Yeah. My only big problem with Frank Thomas was the nickname 5 o'clock Frank. Lots of numbers, but he always hit home runs when it didn't make any big difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. He was really good, though.
All right, so Ortiz or Miggy, I think we're calling that one a toss-up. You want to go with Ortiz? I know you like him as the actual DH.
That's why it's hard to go Arenado. It's like hard to go Arenado over Miggy at third, in my opinion.
Well, they're both great hitters, but Arenado is a million times the fielder that Miggy is.
He has, but Miggy, you have to give him something for doing it for longer.
Sure, but it's Nolan Arenado's fault that we are making this in 2020, and he just came into the league 7 years ago.
So why isn't like Acuna on this then?
Okay, 1 year and 6 years are different.
I mean, you're right.
Same goes for Trout, though. I mean, Trout and Nolan Arenado have very similar careers right now, except I think we give Trout more credit because he doesn't do it in Colorado.
True. And Trout's probably just a little bit better in basically everything.
Yeah. All right. I'm good with this. I just think we should solidify our batting orders because clearly David Ortiz is not going to be batting second.
I agree.
You want Trout leading off? He's played it before.
Oh, man. Not really, do you?
I mean, who would be your better option for leading off then? I mean, because you got Bonds, Trout, Griffey.
I think, so ideally how I see it, I think, is Griffey leading off, then Trout, then A-Rod, then Bonds.
All right, so Ken Griffey Jr. And then you want Trout batting second.
Yeah. I love Trout in the 2-hole. In a lineup like this, obviously.
I mean, Bonds will bat third as a lefty, and then Pujols as a righty.
I like A-Rod up there. Yeah.
And how good A-Rod was. He gets a bad rap, but he was amazing.
Yes.
All right, so Griffey, Trout. Who am I missing now? We got David Ortiz, Nolan Arenado. Well, I'm going to put Ortiz batting fifth then because I want to go lefty.
I get that.
Then I'm going to move Nolan up here to batting sixth.
There's no way A-Rod could be this far down for me.
Did I not have A-Rod up here? Oh, damn it.
Yeah.
All right, we'll put A-Rod as sixth then.
Yes. And then you can just leave it, I think, the rest. Although I'd probably start Pudge and Alomar. And kind of
I was just going to say that. Yes, because you know the feel. You want a base runner behind him.
Have that like second leadoff hitter, too.
Yeah, that's what, that's what I was
saying. Same thing. Yeah.
All right, so we got Griffey Jr., Trout, so lefty, righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, righty, righty switch hitter. Okay, it's not going to be perfect, but at least at the top of the lineup if we're playing in NL games. We are riddled with a bunch of gold gloves right here, two guys that can really pick it for their positions. I'm good with it.
I'm good with it, too. And quite honestly, like the rotation is pretty easy for me.
All right. So we got Rivera, closer. Roger Clemens.
Ooh, I wasn't thinking about. So he wasn't even one of my guys, but I'm fine with him.
Wow. As long as you don't take steroids into account, he's probably the best starting pitcher of my life. Him and Randy Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, the three I had before Clemens were Pedro, Randy Johnson, and Maddox.
Yep. I've played this one over and over again in my mind. Clemens, Randy Johnson, Pedro, Greg Maddux were like easily up there, and then I have Kershaw as 5.
I have Verlander.
Verlander over Kershaw, really?
Rings. And with a guy like that, it matters for me. He's been clutch, but Kershaw hasn't. Like, it's pitchers are different than hitters too. Pitchers have more control, you know?
You're not wrong.
I'm surprised you went Kershaw over Verlander. Kershaw has been, for me, it's Verlander. Like,
so here would be my thing then. If you're going to take that into account, Greg Maddux, I don't think did anything special in the postseason. I mean, I have to have Maddux in my top 5. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my tiebreaker between Verlander and Kershaw.
All right, is there anybody else we could potentially be missing? And if you're thinking about it that way, is Madison Bumgarner somebody you even consider? Because he's been as clutch as anyone.
I would take him over Kershaw, but not over Verlander.
Okay.
Sure, there's other guys that have been really good. I'm not sure there's really like, you know who else we're missing? Over all Scherzer.
I mean, Scherzer is still a little bit underrated for his career achievements, I think.
Give me Scherzer.
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk clutch, though, I mean, Scherzer hasn't done anything amazing in the playoffs, has he? I mean, I know he pitched well last year, but...
I mean, he got one last
Clayton
year.
Kershaw won. Oh, he was so good, though.
He was. Man, I would, honestly, though, like, for me, if Verlander or Kershaw, who do you like more?
Postseason pitching. Verlander's got a 3.4 ERA in the postseason. He's 14-11. It's not like he's been overwhelming.
No, but, I mean...
Better than Kershaw's 4.43 and 9-11, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just look up Max Scherzer real quick, and let's check out his postseason stats. Because, again, we're both huge Max guys, and we think he's still slept on for his career achievements. Mm-hmm. 3 Cy Youngs, second and third the last 2 years, top 5 every year, as long as we can remember. Postseason pitching, he's been the best of this group, 7-5, 3.38. Got his ring last year.
I'm more than fine with it. I love Scherzer.
So we're going to go Mad Max, and this is where anybody can all those, but know that, like, Kershaw and JV honorable. And we also haven't even talked about the late Roy Halladay. There's another guy who's really good, and then there's one more. He just slipped my mind. That could be talked up here as well. Man, I just had it. Lincecum in his prime was really good, but that was too short.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested.
Anybody else you're maybe thinking of?
No. Although your Roy Halladay call is right up there. Jacob deGrom's getting close.
Yeah, another couple other seasons of Jacob deGrom, like doing what he's been doing, then he's going to be hard not to talk about.
I'm definitely trying to. Who is the other guy you were thinking of?
CC's like just a step below these guys.
Great. CC in his prime was awesome, though.
Yep. Roy Halladay was really good. Oh, Tom Glavine.
Yeah, I was thinking about him too. I think he's like in the CC class.
Yeah, I'm with you because it's a little bit more about longevity with him because he pitched for so long, for 21 years. He did win 2 Cy Youngs. He did finish, top 3, 4 other times. He was really good, but I'm with you. He's kind of more in the CC class to me.
We agree.
Okay. So now that we got our Clemens, Randy Johnson, Pedro, Greg Maddux. And then honestly, we have Mad Max here, but the Kershaw, Justin Verlander, like even Roy Halladay a little bit, that's so close.
Agreed.
And I can't take those top three or Maddux away. Maddux was so good for so long.
Mm-hmm. He like led too.
Yeah, now we got to talk about our next three relievers and know who's put in there. And a lot of these guys will probably be closers because those are the best. Dennis Eckersley, do you remember him?
Of course.
Okay, I can't really remember the timeline on him and if you were watching him, if we can count him or not.
We can count him. I don't think he's a must.
Close. Yeah, you're right. It's close. What about Trevor Hoffman?
Yeah, he's got to be in there.
Okay. For those of you guys who do not remember Trevor Hoffman, possibly the greatest changeup of all time.
Yep. Bunch of good closers like in our lifetime. Billy Wagner.
Yeah, that's what made me think of this is I saw a bunch of like baseball players were posting their lineups.
Yeah.
Billy Wagner was up there for a lot of those guys.
He should be.
So we got Trevor Hoffman. Let's look up Billy Wagner real quick and just.
To be honest, you could put Chapman up there.
Oh yeah, he was the guy I wanted to bring up for sure.
Like definitely, he's right. Ooh, Chapman or Wagner? They're so similar.
.422 career saves, ERA at 2.31. WHIP under 1. Let's compare that to Aroldis Chapman. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else that should be up there for consideration. The numbers are real close, too. So Billy Wagner, Aroldis Chapman, anybody else that we might potentially be missing?
Man, I'll look this up. So I'm not.
Yep, I'm looking up all-time save leaders right now. What's that?
Kimbrel.
Kimbrel was damn good for a while there. Lee Smith is a little too much below my time.
Really? He's definitely.
I got to remember him, but.
It's funny. A lot of my memories of these guys are like, I remember he gave up a grand slam to Albert Bell. So I remember him, but not in the best of terms. Yeah, I think, Eric Gagne is kind of like Lincecum.
Yeah, very, very short time period. Oh, this is all active. I don't want active. I want all time.
John Wetland, Troy Percival.
John Wetland.
He was good.
John Franco.
Yeah.
Eckersley. Joe Nathan. Papelbon was really good for a little while.
Sure.
Houston Street. I haven't heard that name in a hot minute.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at a list and I just scrolled past Fernando Rodney, so I know I'm done scrolling.
I'm good with Aroldis Chapman. He also made a bunch of these other major leaguers lists. So Trevor Hoffman, Aroldis Chapman, and Billy Wagner.
Yep. Got some lefty heat.
Yes, we do. And then you got so maybe if you get one of these guys to go 5, you go Wagner, Hoffman, Chapman, Rivera. Boom, yeah, boom, exactly. Boom. I'm good here. I think the biggest arguments we might get is the number 5 starter because the arguments for Kershaw and Justin Verlander and Roy Halladay are for real. And then I like our lineup. You could tinker with the batting order a little bit if you want to. I think the place we catch the most flack would probably be Nolan Arenado at third base.
Same. There's one other guy I just wanted to ask you about. Because we talked about second base and Alomar, and I mentioned Cano. What about Altuve?
No.
He's right there, though. I know you're just thinking about the cheating, but
yeah, I'm a prisoner of the moment right now.
You said no quickly, but he's right there. Especially if we're putting steroids to the side here.
That's true. Again, he was awesome.
Let me ask you, Cano or Altuve?
Cano.
Okay.
Although, he's just got caught cheating too. So I'm just going to stick with Alomar, who has no no stink around him for something like that, and who also played the second base position.
Funny thing is,
defense
he did spit on an umpire.
What's that?
He did spit on an umpire.
So the umpires suck. They probably had it coming.
True.
So, okay. Would you agree? I think the places we get the most flack would be Nolan Arenado at third base, and then potentially that fifth starter.
Nolan Arenado, Derek Jeter. I don't think we're going to get much flack for that fifth starter. I mean, we made it clear, like any of those guys, Bumgarner, you could throw in there. I think, Arenado, we're going to get a lot of slack from whoever watches this video, and Jeter not being in there, but it's, we're going a lot by numbers and like what we've seen. And so this is our squad.
Yeah, and I'm a Jeter hater, and I think everybody knows that. And what I mean by that is I just think he's a little bit overrated, and I think he gets way too much credit as the pretty boy. And again, I would love to live a day in the life of Derek Jeter. Trust me. He's all class, all world when it comes to that, when it comes to chasing tail. But I think he gets a little bit too much credit. Those were some great Yankee teams. They played well as a team. It wasn't just him. And why nobody ever brings up Bernie Williams and Paul O'Neill and things like that, and was all Jeter was so clutch. Like, those were great teams.
Oh, hell yeah. Great, great teams.
And then after that team disbanded, like Derek Jeter never led the Yankees to another World Series in the last 15 years of his career. If he's the greatest clutch player of all time for the New York Yankees and for a team that will go out and get him players around him, he should have, gotten home another ring. The only other ring he ever got, he was carried by A-Rod for one postseason.
I don't think it's fair for you to discredit the rings he does have and then also not give him credit for the rings he doesn't have. But I get your points.
Well, I don't like that the other Yankees that kind of kept that team rolling for those years are always kind of forgotten about, because I hate the Yankees, but those teams, man, they came through for each other.
For sure. No doubt about that. A lot of good players.
So, all right, man, that's what we wanted to talk about today. We are down for other video suggestions, man. Like, we are just struggling for stuff to do right now. So, like y'all, we'll talk for you guys and talk sports, but we need to know what you guys want to hear.
I was thinking we should break up and do the rotation as a separate video, but the rotation is too easy. So we'll have to think of something else to do for a new video.
Definitely. All right, guys, have a great day.
Thanks.